I'm somewhat shocked. There's this new change to the labor code that's in process. It's coming. It's expected any, I guess, week or month now, where there will be a vaccine mandate coast to coast if you work for a federally regulated industry. And you brought up, if you work for a grain elevator or grain silo organization or mining, telecommunications, and your organization or your industry, which is air flight, airlines. That's a lot of Canadians. Nearly 1 million Canadians will be impacted by this. Why haven't we heard more? Why hasn't there been a big outcry?
Well, I don't want to get conspiratorial. I did a little bit of research trying to see how much came out as far as news releases, and it wasn't a lot. And I think part of it is, and I'm speaking more broadly outside the scope maybe of what we're talking about here, but I think there's a genuine fatigue. There's information overload right now. And you look at where we've been over the past several weeks with everything that went on with the trucker convoy, and it provided somewhat of a smokescreen. Not that it was, I'm not suggesting that the trucking convoy was anything other than what it was, but there's all sorts of things going on behind the scenes. We've got global turmoil and otherwise. So it's more than just this piece as far as the Canada Labor Code. We see all sorts of other bills that are rapidly sliding their way towards legislation in this country. And there's just so much going on. And from a communication standpoint, even as an organization ourselves, and I'm sure you, Tanya, probably find the same thing, trying to get a message across, it's challenging because people's attention span is fairly limited because they're stressed out. They're concerned about everything from what's happening in the Ukraine to what's happening to their jobs for those who are out of work, the economy and otherwise. So something like this, to be honest, it's you start mentioning acronyms like CLC and ESDC, and people's eyes
the Canadian Labour Congress. Well, I would assume we would have heard from the Canadian Labour Congress or some of the larger unions.
Yeah, well, and we've done a little just peripheral research initially. We've asked our own aviation professionals to engage with their unions, with their management, more as a courtesy to say, wow, as a stakeholder, have you been consulted and were you part of the process? Because the government's saying that's what's happened. And what we've been able to get to so far, I think they've been taken by surprise. The ones that I've talked to, they're scrambling right now to try and wrap their head around where this is going. And like I said, in aviation, we're mandated already, but once it's in the labor code, you're dealing with a different beast right now. It's not interim in nature, right?
Right. And I think part of the distraction, when you said there's so many things happening, obviously global turmoil with Ukraine, but one thing that has distracted many of us is the frequent announcements of this mandate lifting, that mandate lifting. And across the country, we see that the vaccine mandates are lifting. Your industry, obviously, it's not lifting. However, it seems the federal government is doing something entirely different or is going in a completely different direction, which is they're not lifting the mandate for at least aviation industry, but in fact, now they're codifying it, as we've discussed, for good, for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, no, and I think you bring up a great point there. And we've, as an organization, used phrases like be vigilant, be relentless, because there is a concern, certainly from myself and some of my colleagues, that some of what you're seeing in terms of these mandates at the provincial level being lifted, it's bits and pieces here and there. It's different in every province. Right. But I'm concerned that it's a little bit of, I'll call it breadcrumbs for the hungry masses. It's here's something to satiate you for a period, perhaps during the summer when the sunshine comes out and it's a little bit warmer. And we've already got Dr. Tam talking about the fall and what we might see in the fall. So I think people need to be concerned about what's coming at the federal level. Don't be distracted. I'm not saying be doom and gloom, but we're in a battle here, certainly as far as our freedoms go, that I like to call a marathon, and getting ourselves past just these vaccines and the COVID issue. I think we're really in for a long haul, and we need to pace ourselves and continue to be vigilant about what's coming our way.
I think that's a very interesting point, especially as we have heard from Dr. Tam, as you mentioned. She said be prepared. There might be another variant in the fall. But in the 30 seconds we have left, I mean, you represent, thousands of workers, thousands of Canadians who want to fly. What does their future look like? Will you ever get a job in the airline industry after this?
Well, we like to be hopeful, but I would appeal to Canadians coast to coast. if you want to change, if you want to seize your freedom, this is the nature of dealing with a government that's pushing themselves into your private sphere. You have to take agency for your life. You have to stand up for your freedom, speak out, be courageous, and make your voice heard. That's what I would say.